Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Halal Gap. I'm your host, Sikandar and Sofia, and I'm joined as always by
your other host, Sofia Alani. And of course, our wonderful podcast producer, Asif. Where you at?
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam from the depths. I mean, we are releasing this in Ramadan, so this is very, very appropriate welcome.
On
fact,
brand.
Now I feel
That's true.
like my intro was insufficient in many ways. But to make up for that, we have an incredible guest joining us today. Take it away, Sofia.
Our guest today is a freelance illustrator whose bold, colorful designs have captured the attention of fans from around the world, including Riz Ahmed, Kumail Nanjiani, and Hasan Minhaj. Inspired by her family and especially her grandfather, she has evolved her art into her own eye-catching and distinctive style and was the illustrator behind the gorgeous artwork for the podcast Tell Them I Am. If you have ever wanted a Mughal-era-inspired portrait of Drake, she has got you covered. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emmen Ahmed.
Woo!
Hi guys. Yay!
Hello. Seriously,
Welcome,
though, that
welcome.
Drake portrait, excellent.
It's pretty fire. We're going to definitely need to dive into that one a little bit.
Yes.
It was fire. It was great.
Sure.
All of it.
Right on. So let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about you, about where you grew up. Let's hear the origin story of Emmen Ahmed.
Oh, the origin story is quite not fantastic, but I grew up in Chicago. I was born there, and then we moved around the U.S. a little bit, but then we settled in Michigan, and so we've been here ever since like I was in second grade. And I've always liked art. I've always liked drawing. I've always asked for like Crayola crayons for Eid and stuff like that. And I would love going to like art camps and just participating in anything that's artistic. And then there was a period of time where I just never really touched it. I think it was in high school. I just didn't really like have a connection to it anymore. And then after my grandpa passed away, that's when I was like struggling with a lot of emotional issues. I just felt like I was in a crisis. And that's when I kind of put myself back into wanting to create, trying to find an outlet. And so I started the Emmen John Instagram page without really an intention of like it getting big or anything like that. Maybe it was just kind of like a portfolio, like some place where I can just put stuff and have it all together. Well, I guess there maybe was a little hope that I would blow up, but I think that's natural, right? And so I remember I was working at the state capitol in Lansing as an intern, and I was in a meeting with like some constituents, and I saw on my phone like, oh, Hasan Minhaj tagged you in a post, and I
No
kid
big
you
deal.
not, yeah, I was cheesing the whole time. And it was embarrassing, but I was also like who cares? Like this is the best day ever.
No doubt.
And so from there, like I think I gained 3,000 followers that night. And I didn't know what to do. I was like, half of me is like, this is great. And the other half of me is like, I don't know if I want this. Right. I feel like I'm the kind of person who is really fragile, like criticism and stuff like that. I know it's human nature and it comes with the territory, but it's just, I wasn't prepared. And I don't think I still am prepared for any of that, but I just take it day by day and hope for the best. And also just from that point, I was like, people were asking me for commissions and stuff. And I'm like, I can probably do something with this. But I didn't have like a set goal. Like I want to reach this milestone or do this or this and this. I was just wanted to like take it day by day and see what I could accomplish. And so it's mostly more of a personal project for myself, like pushing myself with new projects, new opportunities, just self-growth and self-discovery. So this is more of what I see this online presence as, and even just the general freelance illustration job that I've now created for myself. It's more so just seeing how far I can go and how much I can learn about the industry, about art, and about myself too. So yeah, I guess
have
that's
2 questions.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, in your Eid crayon requests, did you ever ask for the one with the pencil sharpener? And if so, how did that go? Because that was the dream.
I think my eyes were set mostly on like one of those really big, expansive, like all-inclusive, 100 and something
All the
colors.
colors.
Or
Yeah.
those really cheap plastic like sets that has like a set of watercolors and set of colored pencils and then
Yes.
really
Yes.
cheap plastic brush. Like I wanted that so bad.
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and
Those
you
were
could
the
only
dreams.
order it like through like you could only order it like with the commercial through the telephone back then.
Oh, classic.
So
those
like
infomercial art supplies.
yeah. So I
Catering
like
right to 5-year-olds. Yeah.
I wasn't
Yeah.
that picky. If I got it, I was happy. Because I mean, we didn't struggle when I was younger. We just like we were on like a med school salary. My dad was in residency, so if I was happy to get it, then that was it.
That's awesome.
Nice. And then my second question. So like you mentioned you were like, I don't know if I want this because of all of the kind of potential for like criticism or any kind of like negative stuff that comes with kind of being well known on social media and creating your own content.
The haters, the trolls.
The haters, if you will. So like how has that materialized? Like, do you feel like it was like so much less than you expected? Has it been like more challenging? Like, how has that worked out?
I'm very fortunate and thankful that it hasn't been bad. I think when I started out, I was still in a fragile place. I was still like processing the loss of someone who was super important to me. And so I think through like therapy and figuring it out, I feel a lot more comfortable with understanding that people will have criticism. And knowing that like people's personal opinions aren't necessarily a reflection of who you actually are. And so I think internalizing that point makes it easier for me because I've had people, DM me nasty things or post nasty things on the comments or whatever. And I think now it's just more so it's funny unless they have a very valid point that I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
Like unless it's actual criticism and actually trying to educate me on something, then yes, I will completely listen. But if it's just like, oh, you're ugly or like like, oh, you like Pakistani scum or something like that, like because I've had that, then it's just funny to me. I just I just laugh it off.
That sounds very healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Much smaller scale. But I remember we used to even get like troll comments on our posts for the Mosquers. And it was like, I remember originally it would just be like the biggest deal ever. We're like, how do we respond to this guy? And now it's just like, just ignore it. Like that's the best way to respond.
Yeah, this is a PR nightmare.
Nothing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, literally nobody cares about trolls. That's the bottom line.
How are we going to speak for all of Muslim kind right now?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What is the appropriate response on behalf of over 1 billion people? No, yeah, completely. Something you've touched on already, and I know you've talked a lot about it in other mediums, is your relationship with your grandfather, especially as you were younger, kind of getting into the creative arts. Can you talk a little bit more about that relationship and how it did drive you towards sort of this creative journey that you went on?
Yeah, so I was like my grandparents and my family have lived close together for as long as I can remember. And I remember I just had a really strong connection with my grandpa. He was super sweet. He would always bring me like a chocolate sprinkled donut from Dunkin' Donuts when I stayed over his house, like on the weekends. And I remember very vividly that he would always get me like a McDonald's hamburger. And we didn't realize it was haram until like a year into eating it. And I think he just didn't have the heart to like not give it to me anymore. So he would still buy it for me. And yeah, he was just always really supportive about the arts. He was a photographer and a musician himself. And I think having that kind of figure in my life that was the person to like enroll me into art camps and like show me his dark room and show me all the things that he's photographed and talk about all the musicians he's played with back in Pakistan. Like it made me feel so fortunate that I didn't have this pressure to become like a doctor, lawyer, engineer, right? Like I saw someone in my own family make a living out of the arts. And so I think because I was kind of an artistic soul too, I think we just had this really important bond. And like when he was sick for a while. So when it got pretty bad, it was just, it didn't occur in my mind like that he could pass away, right? I thought this man was going to live forever. And so when he passed away, it was a really hard reality check for me, because he actually passed away from complications for a surgery that was supposed to save his life. And so it was a really rough senior year of high school for me. And college, I think I was like, I felt like I was okay, but like my actions and my emotions didn't reflect that. And so when I figured out that I needed to like have someone guide me through this and stuff like that, it was painful, but it was also the best thing that could have happened to me, right? And I mean, like his lack of presence in my life now is difficult, just because like, you know, there are big events happening in my life that I would want him to be there for. And so it's always just been a process in my mind, like something good happens, oh, I'd want him to like know about it, right? But yeah, I don't think he knew how much he shaped my understanding of the world. And so I think like every time I make something, every moment till this day, I'm like thinking of what he would say or what he would do or how he would respond to something. But at the same time, like I have no clue, because like I wouldn't know what his opinion would be if he saw the kind of work I was making now, you know, because all this happened post his passing. So it's a really complex relationship. And so even to this day, it's difficult to manage, but it's also so much better than it was before.
And so you, because you've mentioned that like like you said, like he believed in you so much and he kind of supported you and showed you this other way of kind of gaining success, if you will, that like wasn't the typical ways that we're told success is achieved. And I think you mentioned that like there was a period of time where you had stepped away from art, even like, was it after your grandfather had passed away and then you came back to it when you were in therapy?
Yeah, so he passed away right after I graduated high school. And then first 2.5 years of college, I didn't really have an interest in painting or drawing or anything like that. I would do it here and there, but it was never like intentional, you know, like you sit down and you have an idea and you research and you plan it and you like put your soul into it, you know? And I think just one day something in me was like, I need to make something, like actually make something. And when I realized how therapeutic it felt, then I kind of realized, like, for lack of a better word, that I was depriving myself of therapy in that way. I was depriving myself of an outlet. And then I guess it was kind of self-destructive in wake of what happened. Like I didn't deserve to do something that made me happy. But yeah, it was just kind of like a whoa, you step back and you realize, so like life could have been so much better, but now you know, and now you can make the rest of your life better, or try to make the rest of your life better. So yeah, it was a weird period of time. It was just, and it was also that period of time where people are like finding themselves. They're in college, they're out of their house. At least that was the experience for me. I didn't live at home when I went to college. So yeah, I guess it was kind of, you just realize like, wow, this could have been a lot simpler for me.
And so like, did it come at a time when you were like, had your relationship with art, I guess, and like that therapeutic nature, had it been like fractured? Like, were you like not wanting to do it, or was it just something that like you were like you mentioned, I guess, that it was kind of something that you were depriving yourself of, even though like probably you secretly knew a little bit that like it was something that would be super like lovely as an outlet. But yeah, I guess just like
I
in
think it just kind
that
of,
process a lot.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
It just kind of shifted to the back of my mind. It like was compartmentalized and like thrown in the depths of my consciousness. It didn't feel like it fit in my life at that moment. And maybe that was just my perception of it, like thinking it didn't fit when in actuality it did. That's what I would say. Yeah.
This is super deep. I'm into it. No, but jumping more kind of, I guess, into the, like you're kind of reacquainting yourself with the passion and with art and recognizing that that's something that you wanted to once again explore. Was there a point, and I think you maybe touched on it, but was there a point where you thought, okay, maybe this is something I can actually do professionally and not just as an outlet, or did that just kind of happen organically as you just put your work out there more and more?
So there's a kind of my relationship is kind of complex with it, in it that like I didn't go to art school. I don't know anything about color theory. I know that there are skills that I should probably learn, or skills that could help me like expand and make stuff that I probably like even more. Because there's a whole body of work of stuff that I made that I just hate. And so that makes it difficult for me to believe that this can be a job, because, you know, it's daunting when you see a list of requirements on a job application and you're like, I don't have this skill, I don't have that skill, I don't know Photoshop, I don't know this, that. And so, yeah, so it's still a difficult a thought process for me even now, when I'm like, I don't know the basics. I just do what I want to do. People like it. That's great. And I love that. And it makes me want to keep creating, but also like, it makes me feel like there's no professionalism in the way I work also. And so, I mean, a lot of this stuff is subjective, right? So you can have someone who says like, you probably need a course in color theory or figure drawing, and then you'll understand what you need to do. Or some people say like, you just need to have an interest and a passion and some talent, and you can make money off of it, and that's all that matters, right? And I think just personally for me, I feel like there's a lot more I can learn before I can ever feel that there is a spot for me in the professional world. But for the time being, I'm perfectly happy doing what I'm doing now as well. And it's amazing to see some of the opportunities that I've given. Like Tell Them I Am was my first big opportunity. And I still have a great relationship with Misha to this day. And we're working on season 2 right now, and I'm really excited for it. And so, yeah, it's just, I surprise myself sometimes with the kind of opportunities I land. And at the same time, I'm just like, oh, I should probably put more effort into this and then see what else I can get, right? So like on the side, I do some stuff on the side to keep learning. But like, I wish I didn't abandon it before college, because then maybe I would have gone to like art school, you know?
I mean, it raises an interesting question around like, what is a professional, right? Like, does it require a certain level of credibility or education, or is it simply if you make something that people want and can, you know, create a monetary reward for it for yourself to like do it as a job, is that all it takes to be considered a professional, right? Like, and I mean, it's an open-ended question, like you said, right? People have different experience, different answers based on what their perception of it would be. But certainly I could see how just having your work out there more probably just opens the doors for more opportunities that, you know, then you decide, do I want to pursue this or not? Has that kind of been the case? Especially, I'm thinking like more so, you know, as your work kind of got the attention of some of these celebrities that you've touched on. And I know there's an interesting story that you have about like Jimmy Fallon wearing one of your works as well. did you feel that as you got more recognized by these celebrities, and not to say that you need affirmation from them, but did you feel that kind of added a level of credibility almost to your work that that maybe as someone who might have been seeing it just as a hobby helped to kind of make it a little bit more real? Or is it just another fan appreciating what you're putting out there?
That's an interesting question, because I think at the time, for me, like the whole celebrity attention was kind of happening like one after another. And so at the time I was like starstruck, and I felt as though that was going to give me credibility, right? That was going to give me validation. And when I look back, it's funny because that's the kind of body of work that I just don't identify with anymore.
What do you mean by that? Like what specifically?
Like the Mughal portraits and all of this, like those very simple line work, pop arty kind of art that I used to make. I love the fact that I made it, and I love the fact that it's in my portfolio, and it landed me a path to grow from. But when I look at myself now, back onto these types of work, I think that, I feel like I could have done much better, or maybe it's just something that I don't identify with anymore. It's like, for me, it felt like I was trying to play on the whole representation card. And then me later realizing that that's not necessarily what representation is supposed to be. Putting a famous person's head on a like a Mughal body, like, I don't think that was the epitome of representation. So yeah, I mean, as I grow and I learn and stuff like that, it's going to be natural for me to look back and think, man, like, I wish I was smarter back then.
Well, I mean, maybe, but it's also, the way I would look at it is like, it's a period of time, right? Like it was like what you wanted to put out at that moment. And now you're at a different moment, like it's a journey like anything else.
And if that's what representation meant to you at the time, like that's still a valid definition, even if it's not what it means anymore. Like, I love all of your work, so I don't know why I'm just like, but Emmen, like, why? It's so gorgeous. Like, what are you talking about? But I think that it's like, yeah, like, I think that's the coolest thing for me about artists that I love, is that like you see their different periods, and like famous artists had like their this era and their whatever era. And so I think that that's like a really cool thing about it, is that like art and like what that means and like what is good art and your skills, like it's never the same thing the whole time, because I think that would get boring, right? Like, so I think that's so dope that like you had such an awesome like period of growth where like you've now shifted. And I think that that's just so exciting to know that like that'll continue.
Yeah, of course. I'm not sad it happened. I'm not like, damn it, I should have done something different. It's like, oh, I'm sorry, I cussed, but
no, you're fine. We've had way worse. Yeah, I don't know if you've heard any of our other episodes, but there's some crazy stuff that goes on.
I don't know if that counts as a cuss.
Yeah, I don't know. Damn it.
Damn it.
We'll get Asif is damn it considered a swear these days. I don't know. Asif's our producer, who I'm just going to reference occasionally. But sorry, keep going.
But yeah, like, I'm happy it happened, and I'm happy it's there. And if it wasn't there, then I would have been a completely different trajectory. And I guess the value of it is that now I know what path I want to go on, and I'm happy that I have a catalog of growth and learning. And I guess it kind of creates a complicated relationship with my work now. Like, this is this work that was getting me recognized back then.
Right.
And now I'm like in this period of time where, I mean, granted, I'm also in grad school. My time is very limited, but now I'm in a period of time where, like, I feel like I'm kind of in a lull where, sure, I like my work now, but it's also not getting that same kind of celebrity attention or stuff like that. And so that's kind of when I realized, like, that's not what I should be searching for validation or legitimacy in the public eye or professional work and stuff like that. It's just whoever feels like they want to work with you will work with you, regardless of what you're putting out. People who wanted to work with me back then like that look, and the people who want to work with me now like the look that I'm going for now. And so your sea of clients is going to always change as you change as well. And I always say when I have a client, like, I can revisit that old look if you wanted me to. I give them a large selection of styles that they can choose which would benefit their vision more. But I always am like, oh, just choose this one.
Like I can, but I don't want to.
Yeah. Nah, it's funny. So yeah, that's kind of my thought process behind the whole like celebrity attention, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, so let's talk a little bit about where you do want to take your art, right? In terms of the styles and how you're trying to transform that. Like, tell us a little bit about sort of the new focus that you are doing. If that kind of more pop art that, you know, with the Mughal sort of influence is not necessarily what you want to be focusing on anymore, because bold colors has kind of been a pretty staple component of your art in terms of like, just since you've been more in the public eye. Is that still something that you want to focus on, or are you completely trying to pivot away from that?
I think Mughal art in general has always been an interest to me. And I think it always will be. I just think maybe I'm trying to draw on different aspects of it. So in the past, it was more so the pose and the composition and the adornments that the person was wearing. And now it's more so like the colors. They weren't hot pink and like baby blue back then, right? It was more earthy tones and a lot more floral motifs and all of that stuff. And I think that's kind of what I want to bring in to what I'm researching and doing now. Like, I love patterns. I think artwork that has a texture or a pattern, even like layering different kind of patterns next to each other, it's going to look loud and it's going to look busy and like crazy. And I personally really like that right now. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to pivot towards. I think, that's kind of just, I think Mughal art in general is just a great source of inspiration for a lot of artists.
Totally.
Because it was coming from a period of time where there was so much, I don't want to say the word Renaissance-esque, like,
no,
culture,
but it is.
But like, it was the height of a lot of crazy historical things happening. And so, I think it'll always continue to inspire anybody from now on. Yeah.
No, yeah. Two of my closest friends who we had on the first season of the Halal Gap, Hormat Abdi and Omer Mirza, they created a comic book based on Mughal era called Zindan, which was like exactly touching on what you're saying, right? Like that entire renaissance of like Islamic culture and the art and like the just the general like awakening of so much culture within that era is so incredible to see, especially like visually and like artistically. So you're right. Like, it's not just, you know, these like bold colored floral patterns that people might think of like South Asian art. There's like this entire other component that needs to, you know, that gets it's starting to get a little bit more play, but it's interesting to see how that's evolved within your work specifically too.
I'll say something because I'm really like, I did a whole paper about this all back in high school, and it's really like, it's like a nerdy interest that I have, but it's so interesting because back then they had immense influence from like Dutch art. Like, Dutch artists would bring, like, if you see a portrait that's really moody and dark and like just gray and brown and all of that, that's influenced by the Dutch. Then they have a lot of influence with like Chinese art, with how they make the clouds. A lot of influence like Christianity, because there are portraits of Mary and Jesus in this form too. And so I think what was super interesting for me that made me want to, you know, buy books and learn more was that it was just a mix of so many different things. I mean, granted, a lot of this stuff did come from colonial overlords, and we know how great they did. Like,
minor detail,
but like, that's what was interesting to me. Like, you also had like Chinese Persian influence. You had a lot of Islamic influence from Saudi Arabia, like the Arabias, not Saudi Arabia, but the Arabian Peninsula and stuff like that. And And then you have like portraits of, Black characters in history too.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it was just a great like time capsule of just culture from every place coming into one specific region.
Yeah, that's so dope. And so you
kind of Sophia, that was the best transition ever.
That's so dope.
It was just yeah, that's so dope. Now moving on. Yeah.
No, sorry. I don't know what we can add to that. That's so cool.
No,
and like,
it was quite dope.
I appreciate the
fantastically dope.
Extremely to the highest degree of dopeness. Because yeah, I don't know. That's just cool. Okay. But no, I wanted to ask because you mentioned that like you're currently doing grad school, and I believe you're doing a master's of public health.
Mm-hmm.
And your undergrad had been like medical anthropology. And so I just kind of wanted to know like what, in terms of like your current view of like professionalism and like what can make you money versus like art, like, are you planning to kind of move forward with like a different career and like kind of do this on the side as like something that you still love and is still like an outlet for you? Or is there hope to like bring those together somehow? Or like, how are you moving forward with like your current schooling and your talent?
Yeah, so, well, I think it's very well known that anthropology and public health are not very lucrative degrees. But I think that my experience with running this freelance business side by side with my public health degree has shown me that there is a whole world of communications that I am really excited and interested to enter in. And like my internship right now is with like a marketing communications with public health like in mind. So marketing and communicating public health ideals.
Cool.
And so, yeah, I think it's just, I really do so desperately want these two worlds to meet together. And then it feels like I'm not working at all. At the same time, like it's going to be a space that I have to make for myself as well. Because I mean, of course these jobs exist, but knowing that I did not choose a trajectory that makes it easy for me to enter this space, I have to make that path myself. And so like graduation's in May, and so I have to start joining the real world.
It sucks here. Don't do it.
But I am kind of excited to know, at least to have experience with knowing that I don't have to get hired someplace. I can be the person who hires myself. And so I think, I'm just really excited to see what I can do. And then also, at least I know, like, I have an interest. I have something that I know I can be good at in the professional world. And so even then, I probably won't feel like I'm working if I'm doing like communications and public health and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So something to, within especially the South Asian community, which is obviously been a focus of yours on the creative side. I'm wondering, with mental health and with behavioral health, more broadly, I guess, being such a taboo almost topic within the South Asian community, do you think there's a avenue for the arts, and maybe more specifically like visual arts, to somehow either highlight behavioral health or have an intersection where the conversations can be had? Is that something that you have thought about as it relates to how you can marry the two at all?
Well, I think it could just be how curated my social media feed is, but I see so much like blossoming of South Asian art and just people taking charge and making spaces to create, mental health awareness and sexual health awareness and artistic spaces, regardless if it's acting or videography or music. Like, I think a lot of people are doing some really great work in showing people that you can make a living, you can be happy and make money and do something that you're talented at and love to do. And so that has been very motivating for me as well, to see my peers alongside me being able to accomplish great things and then be able to make that their full-time job, you know? Like, there's one creator, Animation. She works at Netflix now. Like, that's amazing. And she's able to be an illustrator and animator for them. And that is crazy inspirational. And so I think that just makes it just makes me really excited to see how the next generation is going to have their relationship with the arts. And I'm really happy that it has influenced me to be able to find a career path that I can, you know, inject a little bit of artistic ability into, and kind of make it my own. And so, yeah, I think again, it could just be the fact that I follow very creative people. Yeah. And I'm in this world and I'm surrounded by these people, because I know a lot of people don't have that luxury to be able to, I don't know, like even have open-minded parents as well. But I think when it comes to parents, I think their main focus is they just want you to be able to make a living. They're scared of a career path that may not get you anywhere. But when you see people around the world being able to do great things, without having an MBBS or MD degree, like it's just kind of exciting to see where this is going to take younger people.
Yeah, no, I think we've had this conversation with a lot of creatives in the past, is that, you know, with all due respect, I think we've got enough lawyers and doctors and engineers. We need some storytellers and creatives within our community to represent. So that's always a positive thing to hear, that, you know, you're doing the work, and B, it's starting to feel a little bit more like it's an accepted form of a professional development. What I'm wondering, though, more specifically as it relates to like the intersection of kind of your two different worlds, like, I guess I'm just wondering, like, is there a way in which your work specifically, or have you even thought about like your work specifically highlighting challenges within, you know, behavioral health or sexual health, or anything that you might be focusing on within your other kind of focus here?
Okay, yeah, I think I kind of lost that when I was babbling, but
no, you weren't babbling. No, that was super relevant. No.
I think it makes me really want to work harder and more in that regard. I think because I always kept these two things separate, you know, I'm a student in the day and I work on illustration at night. Like, I don't mix them too much. And now kind of coming to a point in my realization that I can mix them and I can make public health artsy. I think it makes me want to work more in terms of doing that. Like, I see amazing creators like ZHK Designs. She makes a lot of great empowering messages, and I think she's doing a great job in like putting mental health and sexual health and self-esteem issues and all of that, and portraying it in a visual way. Right. And so, yeah, there's definitely more room for me to do that kind of work. For me, it's always been like, I'll use my art as a mechanism to raise money for a cause, but never so much so that the art itself is raising awareness for a cause, right?
Right.
And so, like, identifying that now gives me a bunch of ideas of how I can go further. Totally. 'Cause so far it's just been about like my story with my mental health being what's at the forefront, rather than the art communicating aspects of mental health.
Right. And you know, especially within like that South Asian context that you've typically done your art within, right? Like having more conversations around mental health within that South Asian kind of community, I think would be even more necessary, right? Just because we don't have those conversations nearly enough. And if you present it in a way that's digestible, AKA like this beautiful piece of artistic work, it could be super powerful. Not to put ideas in your head, but I mean,
calm down, man.
I'm just brainstorming here now. No. That's what I was just curious about. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
I wanted to ask about like your more recent work, and you kind of mentioned that there's been a shift in terms of like what you're kind of connecting to now in your art. And I just noticed that like some of your more recent pieces are just really, really cool. Like there's like the theme that I'm interpreting anyway out of it is like this really cool concept of like femininity and like what that means, and like and almost like identity and femininity. And I find it like really, really dope. And I don't know if that was your intention, but can you speak to like what you're kind of where you're at now in your process, and like what these new pieces mean? And obviously we know that there's these themes, and like, and I think in one of the interviews you mentioned like social justice and activism and stuff, and how that's kind of like on your mind now too. So just to kind of touch on like where you're at, where you're hoping to go, and how this new kind of really cool style of like these women in these portraits, like how that came about.
So I feel like I've always kind of been drawn to drawing women more than drawing men. I'm sorry, men. But it's like...
I don't think you have to apologize for that. That makes all the sense in the world.
But yeah, I think I've just always been drawn to drawing women, and it's kind of been in conjunction with trying to find my own femininity too. Like, I'm not going to bash on my mom right now, but she's also the kind of person who's like, she doesn't get her hair done. She doesn't like go to salons. She's very simple, loves to hike, likes wearing Eddie Bauer. Like she is a different kind of femininity, right? And so I'm not saying like femininity is to go to the salon and get your nails done, but it's just like, I've only known one type of femininity as an example of what my mom has portrayed. And so I think all young girls look up to their moms. I guess let's not generalize that. A lot of young girls look up to their moms and see their moms as the guiding force to figuring out what it is to be like as a woman in society, right? And so I think a lot of Desi women, when they're shamed to like not shave their legs, or like they're not really allowed to wear certain clothing, even if it's just for themselves in the comfort of their own home. Sometimes it makes it difficult for girls to figure out that they're beautiful or to feel beautiful. And so I think I always say that I'm like a late bloomer with everything. And so at the ripe age of 24, I'm trying to figure out like what it is to me to be a woman, right? And so that's kind of why I've always really liked drawing girls and women. But I also think like my most recent works are more so a reflection of like exploring love and tenderness, and seeing how people who would carve these beautiful sculptures or make these really well-known works of art were able to grasp that emotion and display it. And I mean, this isn't all by like chance. It's kind of by design. Like I'm getting married at the end of the year. And so just this whole process has kind of brought out a weird side to me where I'm exploring, relationships and love and tenderness and like joy and all of that. And that's why when I see like the Cupid and Psyche in a painting, I'm like, wow, I wonder who these people would be if they were, from Pakistan or something like that. And then I try to imagine a new character sharing that same kind of relationship and that same kind of story.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so cool. And I think like it just also like I found that when I was like looking at these pictures, I'm just going to fangirl for like the next 5 minutes. So just be cool. But like when I was looking at these pictures, I was like, there's like this element of like it, like when you say like tenderness and stuff, it was also like almost like a secret. Like I was like looking at like such like a secretive, like personal, like, I don't know what the word is, but it was like such like a like an intentional personal moment that I felt like I was like witnessing. And I just think that like, you're totally right. Like, I think it spoke to like the woman in me that was just like, oh my God. Like, I think it's just like such a cool, just everyone go look at her art. It's just so beautiful. But I wanted to, so you mentioned that like, wanting to kind of have like look at these characters from the broader like Western culture and like their stories and kind of like, yeah, like looking at them from the perspective of like, who would they be if they were South Asian? So like, have you found that like that's like you're encountering any like cultural barriers to doing that, or is that like a relatively easy thing to like slot these people into like who they would be in our culture?
So it's interesting because I think like we all grew up listening to like or watching Bollywood movies, right? And you learn about this great love story and they face so many challenges and they're eventually love's going to triumph all. And then you kind of, as you get older, you see like, that's kind of toxic. Like what
Yeah,
this guy's like hanging
bit
out underneath her window, like singing to her while she's sleeping. Like it's a little toxic, right? And then
don't do that. Okay, got it.
Yeah. Put your boombox away, Sikandar. We don't have time for this right now.
And so I just think it's weird because at least in like a Muslim household, there's a lot of weird nuances that we have to navigate when it comes to love and relationships because of certain cultural values and certain religious values and then certain familial honor values like and so I think it's just interesting to see people love Bollywood but then dislike it when their daughter falls in love with somebody and wants to marry them. And so
it's only cool when Shah Rukh Khan does it. If it's not Shah Rukh Khan, like you can't bring him home.
And so like it's really weird to see that duality in like Desi culture where it's okay if it's on screen but not if it's in your house. And so I think that's what causes a lot of people to have weird opinions about love or weird experiences about love and relationships. And I'm not saying there's a wrong or right way, but I mean, there's definitely a wrong way. Like if he's toxic, leave him. But like, it's just something I just kind of wanted to explore a little bit, like make a space for a love story. You don't actually know their backstories. You just see that they're in love. And so like, then you can imagine like what they're talking about or what's going through their mind. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. But it's funny though, because all of this this talk about, what inspires me always comes after I make it. And it's not necessarily what prompts me to make it. So I just like think of something, I make it and I'm like, okay, well, this makes like this idea that I had before makes sense here.
That's so cool. Speaking of which,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Rude. No, you can go. You can go. That's fine.
I know my place. All right, that's cool. No, I was just talking. No doubt. I was just gonna ask to build off of that. Like, is there something that would typically prompt you in that way to like pick up a pencil and get started, or is it just a therapeutic process where you just go and then afterwards you kind of have this reflective moment of, I guess this is where the pieces came together?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. It's kind of like when you go to therapy and you have all this stuff in your mind and you blurt it out and then you realize, this came from this trauma, this came from this event that happened in my childhood. Like you kind of backtrack a little bit and you realize why it's there. So maybe I think the way I kind of see it is like, I'll see something, I'll connect with it. I'll try to build something off of it, make it my own, or have it inspire me to make something completely different. And then when I look back at it, I'm like, okay, this makes sense because I have these underlying thoughts and feelings that are now coming out. So I guess it's kind of like therapeutic in that way where you just kind of vomit it all out and then you look at this pretty picture and it's like, okay, this makes sense.
I wish my vomit looked that good.
Yeah damn. What can I do to make that happen? So I guess, so this whole conversation is just making me think of one of these tweets that you had made where you said every piece of art you make is a collaboration between you and God. And I just I was literally thinking about it for like 4 hours yesterday because I was like, holy crap, and I think it reminded me of that quote by Michelangelo that I will heavily paraphrase right now, where he was like, the structures, the sculptures are in the marble, and I'm just I'm letting them out, I'm not carving it, it's in there already. And I think that it was just such a profound thing for me, because I was like, it's you're looking for art and you're looking for God, and it's a thing, and I went down a spiral. But I wanted to ask how
many psychedelics are involved.
Yeah, exactly. Too. No. So yeah, I just think that that's such a beautiful thought, and it's such a beautiful concept that that just makes me think of the whole the nice thing at the end of the story where it was it was inside me the whole time, and it's such a nice wonderful way of looking at also, I think, the fact that everyone can have that connection, because I think that there's a lot of and particularly now with TikTok and so many ways of people showcasing their talent, and it's just holy crap, the world is so talented. There are so many people who can sing and draw and do all these beautiful things and create this beautiful art, and I feel there's certain people, myself included, who's well, nothing I ever make will be that good, so why bother? And I'm also I'm going to therapy for it, don't worry, but there's a perfectionist thing there, and it's a whole thing. But I think that it's such a beautiful sentiment that it's between it's between you and God, and whatever that means for you, and whatever art you create is therefore still beautiful and was in you all along. And I wanted to ask about what inspired that, and are you gonna put it on some art or a piece of clothing? Because I would buy 40 of them. I just think that's so lovely.
So I feel I've grown into the kind of person that I can look outside my window and really appreciate how the light is hitting that building, or appreciate that there's two people right now walking and one has a blue coat on, and I want to know what the story is, right? And so I think when I think about that, I'm all of this is, at least in the Islamic perspective, all this is created by God for a reason. And so I think when it comes to you being the creation who is thus creating something else, by default, that is also something that God has created.
Oh, and so shit. Sorry, that was much worse than damn it. That was so good. That was so profound.
So yeah, that's just that's kind of what I was thinking about. This can apply to anything, right? If you believe in a higher power or just energy, it's all recycled energy. You are a ball of energy making more energy, and it's just kind of all together just forming energy. I don't know how else to put it. But yeah, it's just creation isn't. I guess creation is everything. Everything is created. And so you yourself can create, and that creation can be anything. And I'm losing my train of thought, but
I don't think you needed one. That was beautiful.
No, yeah, honestly. And I don't think I've ever quoted the Quran before in a Halal Gap episode, but it does make me think of the verse in the Quran which says which of my signs will you deny, right? And it's just to show that there's things everywhere, which is the manifestation of that godly presence, if you will, which I think is kind of what you were touching on. But,
and I think when people always ask me what are you inspired by, and I think a lot of creators could identify with this, it's literally everything. I can give you a list of artists and give it to you, and I would be honest, but also the more honest answer is literally everything can prompt me to think of an idea and make something. And I think that can go to podcasting, right? You learn about a concept and you're like, okay, well, I want to explore that now. Or it can go through music and you write songs about heartbreak, and you write songs about love, and you write about your experiences, and it's just, you're inspired by your life. You're inspired by anything that comes around, really. And then you take the methods of other artists to kind of help you build tools and guide the way you want to make it. So yeah, I think it is just like anything can give you a great idea.
Yeah.
That's so
On
cool.
that note, I think that's like a great place to pause the deep conversations we've been having and save the last few minutes we have with you, Emmen, to dive into a segment we like to have called our 5 rapid fire questions, which today it looks like it's going to be 6 because after much internal debate, we have decided to bring back a question from previous seasons, which I guess needs to be asked. So, if you're ready for it, these are meant. Get adjusted,
okay,
get comfortable. Sophia, you do 1, 3, and 6 because I refuse to ask question 6, and that's going to be
fine. Okay.
And so but before we get going, Emmen, these are like first thing that comes to your mind, right? No right answer, no wrong answer. Just go with it. Okay. Just release the energy.
Smack your shoulders. You're good.
Yeah. Okay. Sophia, you're up. Go.
So number 1, rank the Harry Potter movies. Because I heard you're a fan. I'm also a fan.
Okay. Chamber of Secrets is the first one, and then it's everything else, and the last one is Sorcerer's Stone.
Damn. So like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Okay. First place that you want to visit once things go back to normal, like
Japan.
I mean, like post-pandemic. Oh, okay.
Japan.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on.
Done.
No hesitation. Love it. Good stuff.
Okay. What's your favorite dessert?
Anything baked. I love cookies. I love cake. I love
Interesting.
Yeah.
Nice.
Asif did a lot of research for this interview, and he gave us some insights as to some potential dietary restrictions that would make that answer a little bit more interesting.
There are plenty vegan treats or dairy-free treats at least.
Dairy-free. All right.
Yeah. Is it weird that we know about the state of your lactose tolerance level?
You guys are very well researched, so I'm sure I guess guests can think
we
of
know
that
exactly what's in your
endearing.
kitchen. Yeah. There you go. All right. Some guests. Okay. What's your most rewatched movie? Doesn't have to be your favorite movie. It could just be like a movie Potter. That comes up. Okay. All right. Right on.
Nice. All of them?
Sorcerer's Stone. No, that's a lie. The second one, not the Sorcerer's Stone.
Chamber of Secrets. Okay. No contradictions between the first question and this one. Got it. Oh, am I doing okay. So we ask this question all the time and we got a little bit of hate and I don't even care. What's your favorite way to eat potatoes? Like fries, mashed, French fries? Like curly, waffle,
curly
regular?
Fries, Cajun French fries.
Yeah. Nice.
Interesting. Okay. And last but not least, we switched it up. That was the controversial question, not this one. The one book you'd bring with you on a deserted island.
Ooh, I mean, I would say Harry Potter, but I can change
Done. No, 3 answers all being Harry Potter out of 6. That's totally acceptable in this.
You've proven you're a true fan.
No, but I need to change that because we do not like J.K. Rowling anymore, right?
Oh, true. She's canceled. Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah, you got.
There's one book, Song of a Captive Bird. I would bring that one.
Ooh, okay. Although back to the J.K. Rowling thing. So there's this podcast that I listen to called Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. Have you heard of it?
I think I've heard of it, yeah.
Yeah. So highly recommend because they basically treat Harry Potter as a sacred text. Not that they're it's worshiping, but just that they're they use ways of interpreting and analyzing sacred texts in their reading of Harry Potter. And it's so cool and so beautiful. And they released a statement because J.K. Rowling is trash and, all the things that she's doing. And they were if this is something that brought you joy, that's still okay. And so I think you're still allowed to like her if it brought you joy. I'm also
Sophia. I'm going to hold you to this standard as you cancel other things in your life. All right.
No, and it is a question of can you separate the art from the artist? And I get it, but it's Harry Potter's bigger than her now. And I know she still gets the money, and that's a problem. But it's not about her anymore.
I agree with that statement. It is bigger than her now.
Yeah, Sikandar.
Hey, listen, I love Harry Potter. I'm just,
You're not on our level.
Yeah. Clearly not 3 out of 6 level. That's for sure. Awesome. Okay, Emmen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys for inviting me
it.
over. This was a lot of fun.
Yes. Oh wait, where can we find you on the social medias?
You can find me on Instagram. Emmen John is my handle, and that's also my website. And my Twitter is Emmen M, which is very original. And I'm very proud of it.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Right amazing. On. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Halal Gap. Join us in 2 weeks for our next guest, KM. The Halal Gap is a Mosquers production. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok by searching Mosquers Film Festival. Thank you to our sound editor, Hamada Arafi, our tile artist, Narmeen Sayed, our video editor, Arish Jamil, and our immaculately groomed producer, Asif Qureshi. On behalf of Sikandar and myself, thank you for joining us.